Assalamualaikum and good evening, Agenda Awani. Tonight we are going to give special attention to what's happening now in Palestine and Gaza. The crisis which happening now in West Asia has become front and center issues, not just in Malaysia, but also become part of the attention of the entire world. Online right now, we have Dr. Abdullah Waleed, member of Palestine Council of International Relations. We would like to begin with to get a little bit of updates what is happening now in Gaza, especially now the reporting is all about the attacks, the diabolical attack by Israeli forces to not just in Palestine, not just in Gaza and West Bank, but also in Lebanon and Syria, as well as the intervention by Iran. I want to begin with just to get a clearer picture what is happening now in Palestine. Dr. Abdullah, can you give us a little bit of update, Doctor?
Sure, Akhi. Jazakumullah khair for inviting me here, and my salams to you, to our brothers and sisters in Malaysia. Today we are talking about 3,600 days of genocide, continuous genocide. And so the suffering is very deep. It's unprecedented. The death still reach more than 52,000 killed and missing Palestinians, and more than 100,000 injured Palestinians. Most of them, unfortunately, are women and children. And also, when we talk about the scale of destruction, which is also unprecedented, it's very huge, very large. And if it affected every kind of life, every school, every mosque, every hospital, every water well, every sport facility. Most of our road networks are totally destroyed. From the numbers that we received from the authorities here and also the international bodies, we are talking about more than 85% destruction rate, which is totally huge. And also, if we talk about the Palestinians who have been displaced internally, the IDPs, since this war started, we have 1.9 million Palestinians are internally displaced out of 2.4. Of course, this is a huge. These are huge numbers, and also the total destruction, as I learned from the housing ministry, the total destruction of housing is more than 60%. That means 60% of the Palestinians living in Gaza are currently homeless. But for the time being, as the military operations is ongoing, and also the numbers from the Ministry of Housing and other shelter departments, we are having more than 135,000 tents. Most of them are actually not suitable for living. Especially we are entering the winter season. They are not suitable for rain, not suitable for winter. So the suffering is very huge, and the people here are out of solutions. We are out of alternatives. In fact, if you talk to any international body, and maybe Brother Abu Aish can elaborate more, they have no solutions and no clues on how to help the people here in Palestine, in Gaza. This is something that I mean, I myself, I'm engaged in several activities in assisting the Palestinians in Gaza, especially when we talk about the shelter activities. Recently, we have been issuing several calls, international calls, to put pressure on the Israelis to allow for the entrance of tents and shelter requirements like mattresses, and so on, clothes, everything. But unfortunately, the Israelis have been denying all of these calls. And also the other, requirements like food, medicine, and other supplies. They are allowing very minimum stocks before the Rafah operation, before closing the Rafah borders. We used to receive around 200 trucks every day of aid. Currently, we only receive 10 to 20 trucks only. So you can imagine how much is the suffering in Gaza. Of course, in south and the north of Gaza, it's same suffering, same complications. In south, in north of Gaza, as everybody knows and following on the news, they are also facing the starvation. They don't have enough food since several months. Unfortunately, still the siege on north of Gaza being imposed by the Israelis. So the situation is totally disaster, and this is something we really need to bring up on our media and to talk to lots of parties and countries, and people need to know about it to put more pressure on the Israelis.
To expand more about what you just said just now, from 200 trucks, now only 20 trucks that's coming in to Gaza, and you say that we've been asking for international community to put more pressure on Israel. How do you see that works? Is there any small wins for Gaza now, apart from what's happening in the United Nations, more votes for resolution, which is pro for Israel, pro for Palestine, but we cannot see any meaningful action that being taken now. So on that, what is your comment?
Yes, as I said, the international opinion and international support is more toward the Palestinians, and this is very historical moment where we see a huge support, especially from the United Nations General Assembly on the last election vote. On the last vote for the decision for the favor of Palestine has been very clear how much the United Nations are supporting the Palestinian right and as against actually the occupation. But unfortunately, injustice is always taking place with the Israelis because basically they are above the law. And the superpower, the United States, is still supporting the Israelis politically, militarily, and economic, and so on. So the Israelis feel their hands are free. They still feel that they don't have enough pressure to stop such policies against the Palestinians, to stop the genocide that is everybody is witnessing live on their screens, and we received many foreigners and many United Nations officials in Gaza, and everybody witnessed, and we have lots of reports saying that this is a total genocide. But as I said, the Israelis still feel that their hands are free. They can do whatever they wanted to do. Their political leaders are speaking openly without any concerns about killing the Palestinians, treating them as animals, cutting aid and pushing them to surrender and so on. So this is something that the world really need to realize. It's time to stop this hypocrisy. This is the time to stop the Israeli killing machine. Palestinians, this is not the first round of war, of genocide. We are under occupation since more than 75 years. And this is maybe the most terrific and horrific war that we are facing currently in Gaza. But of course, we had the same experience before, on, of course, a lower scale, but we had the same killing before, the same atrocities before, in Gaza, in the West Bank, of course, outside in Lebanon, and so on. So this is a time actually to put an end for this. I mean, if I want to propose more on such issues, we really need to see something happening with the ICC, with International Justice of Court, International Court of Justice, and so on. We had a case brought by South Africa against Israel. It's very important step, of course, and it's a historical step, brave step by South Africa, and many countries have been also involved in such case. Uh, but still, we don't see concrete position and results from the International Court of Justice.
Mhm.
And also, we have another case against Netanyahu and the Israeli leaders in the International Criminal Court. But still, they are silent until now, even though we have many genocides happening before and after the case, but still they are silent about it. So we really need to take some measures and to push forward for such a legal track to take its own influence on the Israeli side to put the pressure legally, and they can do, of course, important role in such track.
Let's talk more about Palestinian. At the beginning, Doctor, you mentioned about 60% of houses in Gaza is totally demolished. It is no longer safe for Palestinian to be at their own home. Now, currently, most of Palestinians live at refugee camp. Can you give a little bit more clearer picture about day-to-day life of Palestinian in Gaza, since there is no more home, since there are no more safe building for Palestinians? So from day to day, what's happening in Palestinian life? Does Palestinian now moving from one places to another places on daily basis in order for them to be safe out of range from Israel's attack?
Okay. So as everybody knows, the Gaza Strip is a very small area. We have 2.4 million people here in Gaza. After this military operations that is still going on, the safe zone that is claimed by the Israelis, they call it a humanitarian zone, is only 11% of the whole Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine how much it's very difficult to put almost 1.9 million people on 11% of the land. This land that is called the humanitarian safe area is actually lack of infrastructure. It's almost like a desert. It's only sand. There is no infrastructure, no houses, no schools, no hospitals, no roads, no water sources, and so on. So you can imagine how much is difficult for 1.9 million people to live for months in such an area without any resource. That is to say that the borders are also restricted by the Israelis. We don't. They allow food, for example, but they don't allow shelter requirements. They still don't allow any kind of materials for construction. So it's very difficult for people to accommodate themselves. Now, as I said, there are 60% are totally destroyed, but there are another 30% of houses are partially destroyed. And these are not also suitable for living because we are with the winter season already started, and it's not suitable for people to live in because they still need to repair and reconstruct their houses. So we are talking about 90% of the people in Gaza are actually homeless. Now, where are they now? They actually are living in tents. I'm living in a tent, me and my father, and also our relatives. We are living in a tent. It's totally difficult for people who used to live in a proper house. We had a very nice big house. I mean, myself, my family. We had a big land. We had our own resources. Suddenly, to live in a tent, so you need to figure out everything. I mean, you need to find the furniture, the mattresses, the clothes. You need to figure out where you are going to bring the water from, electricity, the bathroom, the kitchen, everything. You need to settle yourself. So this is it's very difficult day-to-day challenges. And people, as I say, they don't have enough money. They don't have any money because after 12 months of genocide and total destruction, they lost every kind of income. The economy here is collapsing. There are no income for almost all Palestinians in Gaza. So they don't actually have any kind of money. If people have had some saving, they already spend it early this war. But after that, they don't have anything. So most of the Palestinians are actually relying on aid. Unfortunately, as I said, we don't have enough aid. We don't have enough food. We don't have enough shelter. So it's totally complicated. What makes it complicated at this time, as I said, is actually the winter season. Uh, I already told you the 135,000 tent in Gaza, 74% out of them actually not suitable for living. But most of them are actually not suitable for rain. I mean, we had a wave of rain just 2 weeks ago, and people are already suffered. I mean, the rain and the flood came into inside the tents, and of course, when you don't have alternative or other shelters, you will just need to deal with it. You just need to deal with the mud and to deal with the flood, and you just need to wait for the sun to dry your stuff. So it's totally, I mean, something that you really cannot describe. You really cannot talk about, because something is very difficult to describe for people outside unless you live this kind of experience.
Even I try to imagine the way you describe what's happening now in Gaza, but as you said, Doctor, it's very difficult to imagine almost 2 million people living in only 11% of the land out of the entire Gaza. Even the Gaza itself, as you mentioned, Doctor, is so small now, it cramped up into a very small humanitarian zone provided. But so does it mean the entire Palestinian who living in Gaza now are concentrated in humanitarian zone, or is there still people who are living in the northern and the southern Gaza, Doctor?
Yeah, I mean, this humanitarian zone is actually allocated in the south area of Gaza. In the north, we have the Gaza Strip is being separated by the Israelis on a something we call Netzarim crossing. So the north actually live in a little bit different condition, but the suffering is the same. So they are suffering. Let's say in south of Gaza, we have at least some kind of vegetables, some kind of fruits, because we have more lands to plant such things. But in Gaza, north of Gaza, they don't have anything. I mean, the 1 kilogram of tomato yesterday reached more than 100 USD. It's totally expensive because they don't have enough. I mean, they don't have anything. So it's very expensive for ordinary people to buy such things. But at the end of the day, I mean, even because I've saw so many Palestinians and so many relatives and friends, even though their houses are destroyed, they actually back to their houses after the military operation. Some of the areas have been ended, so they are back to their houses, even though it's not safe. It's very dangerous. They are back to their houses. Some of them already did some reconstructions, just using the whatever materials that are available for them. They made some of the restrictions, and they are staying in their houses between the rubble, and they are trying to, continue their day-to-day life. It's totally difficult, but this is a way. I mean, when you don't have enough solutions, when you don't have enough alternatives, you just need to work with whatever available.
Doctor, it's maybe easy for me to say this, but we really need the support, and as you mentioned earlier, more pressure on Israel, so that at least humanitarian aid can come in Gaza. Last time when crisis fell on Syria, Malaysia have done so much in order for us to send humanitarian aid. And it's easy for us actually to send humanitarian aid to Syria last time. But now Gaza is under siege by Israel, and it's almost impossible, as mentioned just now, from 200 trucks down only 20 trucks, and winter is coming. It might be easy for me to ask this, but I think it's important for us to also understand how can the global community help, Doctor?
Okay, so as I said, this is not, I mean, this conflict is not a modern conflict. This has been 78 years of killing and genocide and siege and suffering for the Palestinians. So we had experience before. Gaza has been under siege since 17 years. And we have been calling Malaysia, we made lots of activities, protests, and we have lots of NGOs who are aware of the situations. Gaza is, I mean, we have been living in such a complicated situation for more than 17 years. We had almost the same lack of medicine, the same lack of food since many years. So this is not a new policies or procedures by the Israelis. So when we talk about how we can end such suffering, of course, we need to work on the long term. We need to keep on pressuring the Israelis. We need to fight the narrative. We need to bring more people on board to help the Palestinians to show their solidarity. We need to change the public opinion. On the public opinion activities, of course, you have a very wide scale of options and alternatives on social media, on the streets, on the ordinary people. You can work, I mean, on the advocacy activity, you can do everything. But also on the pressure on the Israelis, you can, I mean, the governments have some authority to pressure the Israelis. And at least on the United Nations platforms, you can do something. I mean, Malaysia has been doing, they did a great work with other three countries when they pushed for a resolution to condemn the Israeli settlements, which issued the resolution, I think the number of 2334, I think. Which condemned the settlements, and it called it an illegal settlement. So this is something that makes difference on the long run. It changes the narrative, changes the global perception. But currently, as suffering is still going on and the killing is still going on, we really need to take some concrete steps. Of course, you can, I mean, the only borders that we can utilize to bring in aid and other stuff is actually Rafah crossing. Rafah is between Gaza and Egypt. So you can have some of the pressure with the Egyptian side to find a way or a solution to take more concrete step against the Israeli position, occupying the Philadelphia side to try to bring some aid. I mean, to bring back the mechanism that being used before to bring the aid through the international organization. Of course, we need to work on the, I mean, I'm following up the BDS movement activities, and I'm telling you, the Israelis are feeling afraid of such activities because they can feel the pressure. When countries, nations put sanctions on Israel, I mean, when they put sanctions on the trade, on the military, on the academic, on the political and diplomatic sanctions, they can feel the pressure. They feel that they really need to change their policies. This is something had made a fruitful outcome on the last couple of years. We really need to increase such activities and to have more countries on board. A couple of months ago, several countries have recognized the state of Palestine, like Norway, Ireland, and others. And many countries have been talking about BDS and putting sanctions, like Turkey, they have cut some trade between them and Israel. So this is very important activities. This is very important positions that it also can make a difference through the Israeli. I mean, they can change some of their policies, at least on the long run.
just to put some more context on what Doctor just mentioned just now, among others, United Kingdom has already cut some of their military export to Israel, and I think that's one of the little big wins that we have. And maybe finally, Doctor, what are your message to the world after 1 year of genocide from Israel against Palestine, especially in Gaza? And what do you hope will happen for the next 1 year, Doctor?
Well, our message to the world that Palestinians will always fight for the freedom. We have been steadfast and consistent about it. We have sacrificed everything, almost everything. Our lives, our houses, our families, and our economy, our jobs, everything. But we still on the same track. We will never surrender. This is a fight for our land. We don't fight over something that is, for something that is valuable. We fight over something that is very important to us. It's our land, it's our country, it's our homeland. So this fight will continue, of course. And I believe we are more stronger. We are more closer to our independence. So this is something I'm sure of. And after 12 months of genocide, as I'm walking around the streets, I can hear people, even though they are suffering, even though they lost everything. I've met several people, many people who lost their whole family. I mean, Abu Aisha, brother who joined us, he lost many members of his family. He lost his house. He himself was injured by one of the Israelis' airstrikes. But still, people are fighting to live better life. They're still fighting the occupation. They are still fighting all of these plans to occupy and to end the Palestinian issue. So I'm not afraid actually about the Palestinian position, but on the international and on the global position, I would say we really need to work more on stopping the Israelis. We really need to work more on boycotting the Israelis, putting sanctions on the Israelis. Justice cannot be applied when you support the killer against the oppressor, against the oppressed people. Justice will never apply when you allow the Israelis to kill everywhere, to do everything, and you just blame the oppressed people who are fighting for their own rights. So we really need to work more to support the Palestinian narrative. We really need to work more against the Israelis' lies. This war started based on the lies of Netanyahu himself, who said that in 7th of October, Palestinians have killed women and raped women and beheaded babies and so on. All of these are lies. The days have proved that all of these are lies. So we really need to work on such facts. We want to change the narrative. We want to change the perceptions that Palestinians have the right to live in dignity. Israelis' lies here and there from time to time should stop. And I believe the world has already known such fact. They already know that Israel, because what happened in Gaza for the last 12 months is actually repeating itself in Lebanon now. They're killing the same civilians. They are targeting the medical teams. They are hitting the ambulances. Yesterday, they attacked one of the hospitals. So they are repeating the same way of killing. This killing machine must stop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdullah Waleed, member of Palestine's Council on International Relations with us. Thank you, Doctor. And as you mentioned, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And thank you so much for your time with us on the Agenda Awani. That's all for the discussion at this moment. I'm Ifram Faruqi. Salam hormat.